Thank you Terry, for staying.
I like having you next to me.
Sit down, Stimson. I wish you could have been in the meeting.
It being 10 o'clock, I will call to order the June 5th meeting, June 5th meeting of the Criminal Justice Committee. I assume everybody has had a chance to read the minutes of the previous meeting. If so, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Support.
It's moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Rungst.
Mr. Chairman, could we do a change on the agenda and move the flock request to the bottom?
Certainly,
So that those that may not want to stay for that.
certainly. Is that an issue with any other commissioner? Okay, we will do so. I'll move next to the finance reports.
You will see in your packet the project income statement for the Criminal Justice Allocation Fund. Again, you'll see various expenses hitting the subtypes such as cameras and equipment, honor guard, and victim services. You have a cash fund balance of just over $127,000. If you have any questions, I will attempt to answer those.
Questions of the finance report? Hearing none, as we're moving the sheriff, I will move now to the prosecuting attorney's report.
You should have my report in front of you. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions of the prosecutor? As we are a committee of the whole today, any commissioner can ask a question, please, so desires. Thank you. Moving down now to the public defender. You have to talk in your mic.
Couple of newer attorneys that are going to go to a training seminar, a trial seminar, I believe next week, and hopefully that'll be beneficial for them. Anybody have any questions?
Questions of the public defender? Move this quickly. Hearing none, we'll move down to emergency management.
My report was submitted. Just highlight a couple things. One, ready for the race this weekend. Supposed to have good weather, knock on wood. Sunny in mid-70s. So, and the EOC upgrade project is complete. It's physically complete. We're still waiting to close out the finances. Still waiting to get some of the invoices paid. But these are pictures that Jen took of what it looks like now. So it's basically set up in pods to mirror what incident command would look like, with a table for command, a table for finance, a table for logistics, a table for operations, and a table for planning. And then those sections will support incident command in the field during an activation. That picture right there is dispatch. So in a major incident, dispatch would send one, maybe two people to the EOC, and they would coordinate with the EOC and with incident command on the ground as far as communications.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Martis.
I appreciated the tour of the facility. Was it last week, I guess? One of the issues that was raised when we were there was that there might be need for an additional monitor or something for the PR person's space. Is that something that we're considering?
Yes, and in fact, we'll be doing an exercise in the fall, and then we'll make additions as appropriate, because there may be some other things that we find that we need to add to that list.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners Martis, Krasny and I had the opportunity to have a look at the new center. Having seen the old one and seeing the way it is now, this is light years ahead, I think, of what you had. The old one, I could see confusion happen if everybody's sitting next to each other all the way around. So I think it's very well done.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Hearing none, we will move to the medical examiner.
Hello.
Morning.
Our report is from April of this year, of course. We have had so far between Lenawee and Hillsdale counties, 131 cases with 40 autopsies. Jackson County has had 236 cases with 69 autopsies, so that so far as January through April, 367 cases that we have investigated with 109 autopsies. A unique situation occurred for Lenawee County in April. We had no autopsies. We had many cases. As you can see, we had 17 cases that we investigated, but none of them required an autopsy. So I looked back 10 years. I couldn't find a month like that. So very unique. We are kind of back up to regular operations for May. So regarding our case load. So it was a unique month. So I thought I'd point that out. That's always good when an autopsy is not required.
I've not heard of a book like that either.
Yeah, no, yeah, I looked back 10 years and literally I couldn't find one. And I could look back further, but I won't. Because it takes time. Dr. Mano sends his greetings. He is in the area, but he is required to be at MIS right now. As you may or may not know, he operates the field hospital there. So he is required to be at MIS at this time for the race weekend. I do have an investigator that I do schedule just for race weekend, an additional investigator. But of course, we're praying and hoping that we will not be required. I wanted to mention that I met with Craig Tanis this week, our emergency manager. He did have some supplies from the past during the COVID years that he needs to remove from where they are currently stored. And much of the items that he has will help us immensely, including blue gowns that are exactly the same type of gowns that my autopsy assistants wear. They're a blue plastic gown with thumb loops on the sleeves and they have the tie around it. So we're pretty excited. There's also some face shields, masks like N95 and regular surgical masks, gloves, sanitizer that he will be giving to us. And we're trying to work it out with facilities to have them bring it to the morgue. So we're pretty excited about that. It will be very helpful to the medical examiner's office. So we are appreciative. So thank you for sharing that.
She says some face shields, there's like 10,000 face shields.
Yeah.
We'll never have to order face shields again.
I was going to say, we won't have to order face shields for years and years. And those gowns will last us a while as well. So that's why I am quite pleased.
Happy that somebody could use them and that
Yes.
helps Thomas out because we're storing them at the airport right now and he
Mhm.
can utilize that space to a paying customer. So
Excellent.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes. And then I did have some notes from Dr. Mano that he just, if we have time, wanted me to send along some reminders, so to speak, regarding medical examiner's office, what medical examiner law, what deaths require death investigation. And of course, state law outlines that. Sudden and unexpected deaths without medical attendance within 48 hours, unless a physician can extrapolate the cause of death and sign the death certificate. That would be required to be a medical examiner case. Anything that's under suspicious circumstances, deaths that occur in the workplace, sudden violent deaths such as suicides, homicides, accident, death while a person is incarcerated or in custody, deaths involving children, deaths during surgery and anesthesia, possible, anything that could be considered a possible threat to public health, deaths caused by abortion. If a death does not meet these criteria, then it is the responsibility or should be the responsibility of the primary care physician to sign or certify the cause of death. If you know anything about my office, you know we sign plenty of death certificates that do not really meet those criteria. There may be an expected death that occurred at home or somewhere else. You will always see on the report a section that says death certificate signed or cremation permit signed. That's just extra paperwork that our office does. So you can always look at how many autopsies we did. We always have to sign those death certificates. But then you'll see usually that the death certificate number is higher than the number of autopsies that we have. So that tells you how many additional death certificates we will be signing during that month. When we have to sign additional death certificates, we, of course, never saw them as a patient while they were alive. So we have to get medical records or obtain medical records and study the medical records. And Dr. Mano will give us a cause of death, and we certify our portion of the death certificate in the state system. So that does take quite a bit of work. So if you ever have any questions about that section of our report where it says death certificate signed and cremation permit signed, just let me know and I will fill you in. Dr. Mano also wanted me to make sure that I did mention that according to state law, death certificates are supposed to be signed within 48 hours after death. That does not happen many times, especially if the physician signing the death certificate is somewhere else, takes a long time to sign the death certificate. Any funeral director can tell you it is very difficult sometimes to get a death certificate back within 48 hours. Our office is, on the other hand, very good at it, unless there's been a delay for some other reason, like we didn't know we would be signing the certificate. But he wanted me to impart this knowledge. If deaths occur outside of a medical institution, we and state law think that the primary care physician should sign the death certificate. Now, sometimes people don't go to their primary care physician, and we do end up signing those death certificates for the most part. So a primary care physician, their representative within their office or their entity can sign, or a sponsoring physician of a nurse practitioner or physician assistant. The physician assistant and the nurse practitioner can't sign, but whoever they are under, whatever physician they are under, can sign a death certificate. Of course, at times we do get physicians that say, "Oh, well, I never saw that patient," because they were seeing the physician's assistant and they still refuse to sign the death certificate. This is something that the medical examiner has a difficult time with. It creates a lot of extra work for our office. So deaths that occur in a medical institution, it's different. The attending physician, so if somebody dies in the hospital and they're inpatient, usually it is a hospitalist that signs or a specialist that signs the death certificate or their representative. Then state law goes on to say that if that person is unable to sign the death certificate, it should go to the chief of staff or their hospital pathologist to sign the death certificate. It does in state law give, there is a line or paragraph in the state law. It's Michigan compiled laws 333.2843 that says physicians who neglect or refuse to medically certify a death record properly presented by a funeral director is determined to be a natural cause of death and declined by the medical examiner, or they neglect to furnish information to our office, they are guilty of a misdemeanor, which, I mean, there's lines in there for imprisonment and fines. The fine can only be $25 to $100, which we find funny. Or we could report them to Lara, which is their licensing entity. So Dr. Mano is considering we need to set forth a set of guidelines within our office or criteria on what we would consider it reportable to Lara when a physician does not sign a death certificate. So this is just something that we've talked about for years, but it seems like the problem is getting worse. I don't have compiled numbers and comparisons or anything like that, but that is something we've been talking about for a while and we may consider doing in the future. And he just wanted me to bring some of this information to you, which you may have heard before, maybe not. But that's just something that we've been talking about, again, more recently, and I wanted to let you know. So that is it for me, unless you have questions.
Mr. Van Dorn.
So in the case where they can't determine the cause of death, what happens?
If they really couldn't determine the cause of death, then it's going to fall onto us one way or another.
What if you can't determine?
We would have to do an autopsy. But usually what happens when when a physician signs a death certificate, they review the medical records, and from those medical records, you extrapolate the cause of death. So anybody that dies that doesn't have an autopsy, that's what the physician does. They see that, oh, well, my patient had a history of cardiovascular disease and AFib and hypertension. Most likely their main cause of death is a cardiac related death. So you might put hypertensive cardiovascular disease on the top of the death certificate, first line, with contributing things listed below. So usually a physician, as long as they have sufficient history, they should sign the death certificate, in our opinion. Now, if there is not sufficient history, that's when we would consider bringing that person in for autopsy. We also consider their social history. Were they a longtime smoker? Were they a longtime alcoholic? Did they abuse drugs? Those social and medical are always considered hand in hand.
So you're saying that in that case, an autopsy, you're going to be able to determine and put something down there for the reason that they.
Yes. Yep. And we do consider things like lifestyle. Age is a big thing. Sometimes we can extrapolate a cause of death based on the knowledge of how the person lived, how old they were, and then we would assign a cause of death from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions?
I do have one.
Go ahead.
Are we just on this subject or just for the medical examiner? So
I'm sorry.
the question I have is the regionalization of the morgue. Any plan, any further on that?
We have talked recently. Do you want to think?
Okay.
I can take that. I have spoke with Ms. Polani because we've been talking about what her needs are to get started. We kind of have taken this back to ground zero, if you will, to some degree, because when she was brought into the position, she was here for Lenawee County. And then she took on Hillsdale County and then Jackson County. And we really have not increased her staffing levels to any degree. So we are looking at that first. What is it that is needed administratively to handle the potential of a regional facility? Because whatever that agreement looks like, it will include most likely the current staffing that is there to perform the functions that are being performed. So we want to make sure that we have that base set. In the meantime, I have had a couple Zoom meetings and have another one scheduled later this month with Hillsdale County, as they have expressed some concerns and we're working through what those concerns look like. I was at a recent conference where I was present with the Jackson County Administrator and Deputy Administrator, and we talked about a few of those issues. So conversations are continuing. I don't know how it will all filter out, whether it will be considered a regional morgue, a regional authority. What does that look like? What do the respective counties have to say as far as input into how things are funded, how things are operating? Will there be representatives from each county that create some sort of board or authority that have some sort of decision making? We're still working through all of the different nuances that are involved. And so we are currently, though, still working in the same pattern that we have been working. Overall, it it's working. We just have a few things that we need to get taken care of before we talk about this bigger joint effort. And so there will be more to come on that.
So we're making progress.
I think we're making some progress.
Good.
I would agree with that as well. And just of note, as Kim somewhat alluded to, I am having a difficult time completing my tasks. I have more and more stuff that I have been given to do, which I do gladly for the counties. I love Lenawee County especially, but it has been difficult to complete my tasks in the time I have to do it. So I just wanted to put that out there. We've been included in more and more things, and overdose fatality review and other types of meetings and management stuff. It has been difficult, and I'm not complaining, but and we do get our job done, but there is more that I could do, and I could do a better job if I had more help, basically.
Understand? Further questions? You handle these chores for all three counties, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Does Jackson County share in the cost of her position?
Yes, they do.
Don't you want to answer?
Well, they do share in the cost, as does Hillsdale County. All counties do share in that, and that's part of the very convoluted mathematical equation, because we also then pay rent for the morgue. So there's additional expenditures, and there's a spreadsheet that outlines what all those costs are and how they're derived every year. And that's part of what we're trying to look at to come up with a more simplistic way of doing things.
Very good.
Is that,
Mr. Van Dorn,
is that morgue a standalone facility?
Yes. So the reason I say it like that is,
Hi.
so next, it was a large garage that was completely owned by or operated by the sheriff's office. So when Jackson needed a morgue, because like us, their hospital system said, see you later, they built a morgue on the edge of that building, which is right by the jail on Chanter Road. So there is still a section of that building that SWAT has been using. There's armored vehicles, command vehicles in there, that type of thing. The sheriff has, from Jackson County, has been moving their things out of there and putting that in a different location. So I just met with Jackson County yesterday, Dr. Mano and I, and Tim Black, the full-time position in Jackson. We met with them, and I am being told that the sheriff is supposed to have everything out of there now, and we are looking at expanding into that space. We really want to get additional cooler space, an additional freezer. I would like to create a single autopsy space in there. That being said, we haven't done any of that because that space has been occupied by some of our stuff and the sheriff's stuff, but now supposedly it's going to be all of our space, if that answers the question.
some irony in the fact that a SWAT team is up in the same building with the medical exam.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Mr. Rugst,
So across the state, is there any other areas that maybe have a regional setup that we could look at?
Yes. They're not single entities though, as far as I understand it. They are, like Sparrow System has 7 counties. WMed has like, I think 13 counties. So we're smaller in that aspect as, since we're 3 counties. And then you do have some counties that kind of do their own thing. But there are multiple systems that share medical examiners. So we can look at what they're doing, and we have, but everybody operates so differently. It does make it challenging. Especially, it's hard to compare somebody with 3 counties in comparison to somebody with 7 or 13. Not that we can't, but it's just going to be a little different. That makes sense.
further questions? Mr. Van Dorn,
Sorry, I know there's
Okay.
a lot going down here, but and before we put a lot of money into that building, and I don't know what that building looks like, and I don't know how much we've got invested there, but especially if you're talking about regionalization, is there any consideration to move this so that it's has equal access by each county?
I'll take that one since it's probably more appropriate for, since Sarah works there. I don't think that there is, quite frankly. I think that Jackson County is comfortable with having the morgue in their backyard. And if others want to participate in that, in utilizing their morgue, they're good with that. But I don't, and if we don't want to participate, they're good with that too. So that's part of where the rub is here. And so that's part of what we're working through. So if you were to ask, does Hillsdale and Jackson have that interest of moving to a separate building that's more closely related to all three counties? That answer would be, not all counties, they have that same interest.
Well, I know you'll represent us for the best interest of Lenawee, whichever way we go. Thank you.
Yeah, that is partly why this has taken a while. It would have been very easy to just reach a simple agreement and move forward, but we are trying to be very conscientious of the steps that we're taking to build this into the future. Because we want to make sure that whatever it is that we are building or that we're doing is sustainable with the staffing levels as well as the finances that we have available to us, and that we're not being irresponsible.
Great, thank you.
Further questions?
Might I add something as well? I would love for any commissioner or any local Lenawee County staff person, if they would like to come up to the morgue, I would gladly give you a tour and show you firsthand how you operate things. So
It's not as scary as you might.
it is not.
I'll ride up with the sheriff.
Yeah.
We have been up there. You just have to keep an open mind.
Yes.
Thank you for all your work.
Further questions, comments? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move to the courts. You were here.
Good morning. Heidi Cannon of District Court was not able to be here today, but she wanted me to give you an update that their Docket to Drive program to help folks who have DWLS convictions regain licensing has started. So they are very excited about that. She asked me to pass that news along. I am here today to give you some information about a concurrent jurisdiction plan that the courts have been working on for some time now. As you know, each judge is elected to a specific court, so district court, probate court, circuit court, and each of those courts has their own statutory jurisdiction for a number of reasons, including disqualifications, the one family, one judge policy, and a number of other things that come up, judicial economy. We have all decided to help one another. And so traditionally we have done that under what's called a cross assignment plan. But SCAO, the State Court Administrator's Office, is moving away from that, and actually has for a couple of decades now, moved away from that type of assignment to a concurrent jurisdiction plan because it is a stronger jurisdictional support for the assignments that we've been doing. So the plan really just codifies current practice, but with a stronger jurisdictional foundation. I am bringing this to you today because our requirement from the State Court Administrative Office for approval is that the funding unit has 30 days to review the plan and affirm that there will be no funding impact to the funding unit. Given that this is how we've been operating for longer than I've been around, there will not be any change to the funding, but you are required to have 30 days to review it. So I'm not asking for any action today. We'll bring it back in a month and ask for authorization for Administrator Murphy to sign the plan to affirm that there will be no impact on the funding unit.
Any questions? Comments? Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
The only really action here is though for you to move it to the full Board of Commissioners because the review must take place, that 30-day review must take place with the full Board of Commission, not specific to this committee. So the only action, if you will, would be to move this to the full board for the 30-day review.
Which will require a vote. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
I will make a motion to move that to the full Board of Commission.
Support.
It's moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No, same sign, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we got Marie Spear Campus next.
Hello. The big things going on, obviously, at the campus are construction. Things are moving forward. Little things that, just weather's the big thing right now. They've connected finally, to the back of open unit, which is, connecting our corridor. So we're working on that now and getting that sealed up. So, a lot of things have happened since the last tour. We've got a lot of painting done. They're working on floors, and now they'll start working on, a lot of the rooms with stools and windows and doors and things. So it's moving along. The construction on the front office, in the admin building the work is complete. We're just waiting on inspections now. So we're hopefully this week that'll be done. It turned out very nice. We had 2 residents graduate from the campus this year. Residents, I got a phone call at, 6 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, wanting, from NASCAR, wanting to know if the kids could help with a new recycling plan that they're having at the campus, as far as like separating cans and bottles and, glass, and trying to keep throughout all of NASCAR, they're trying to keep track of how much recycling they're really doing. So I guess, starting tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, we will be sorting bottles and glass, and they're gonna pick them up from all of the campsites, bring them back to the boneyard, and then, we'll separate them there. So kids get to keep the cans, and obviously they get paid as well. And then we'll be back Monday for our normal contract with them. Just wanted to say that, the Lenawee Youth Center, our board at the campus purchased a hydroponic farm, which is a flex farm that will grow produce. It produces up to about 395 pounds a year. So, we're gonna implement that in our science class with a curriculum, and, our science teacher will be taking care of that. So they, okayed that last month, and we're gonna purchase it. Waited until June because, we got about $600 worth of supplies with that. So, as far as that goes, that's pretty much it. Any questions or?
Mr. Van Dorn.
Yeah, Mr. Director, this is probably not the question for you, but that recycling information, is that going to be forwarded to our materials management organization? Because we keep track of that in Lenawee.
Well, I think it can be. I was in a meeting this morning before that, and they're gonna give us, they're gonna forward us paperwork, obviously, to fill out on how much we bring back and how much we separate. So that's one of the responsibilities that we have to turn in, so I can get that information.
Oh, good. If you would carry that.
And then they will get back with us on the results throughout the whole NASCAR series. So.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? I might ask, I don't know if this is for your administration. Do we have now an expected move-in date for the new facility? Expected, I said.
September, hopefully, is what
Very
they're,
good.
well, they will be complete with the work in September, and probably the 1st of October move in.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Okay, before I move to the sheriff, I want to bring something up, and after I'm done, before the sheriff comes, if any of the department heads currently here wish to leave, definitely do so, not stay around. But the next meeting of the Criminal Justice Committee is July 3rd. That is a holiday weekend, if you would. And I'm assuming it might be difficult to have several of the people here for that. I would ask the tenor of the commission and the department heads if in fact we want to schedule a meeting, or if something arises that requires it, we'll call the meeting later. But
I won't be here on the 3rd. I'm taking the 3rd off.
okay. So is there anyone who would oppose at the current time canceling the July 3rd meeting and have the meeting only if significant business arises that we must have a meeting? Mr. Van Dorn?
So that'll be at the call of the chair then.
Correct. Any problems? That being the case, I will cancel the July 3rd criminal justice meeting, and we'll only call it if in fact there is some emergency situation requiring it. Now, if the department heads wish to leave, do so. If you do not, you can stay for the duration of the meeting. Now we'll have the sheriff's report. Sheriff, you'll go to the podium and address this.
Good morning. You have my report in front of you. Obviously, the first thing on the report is we're getting ready for the MIS race this weekend. We will have quite a few staff up there. We won't be separating cans, but we will be separating over-beveraged people from their cans. That happens quite often, but we're looking forward to probably a little busier race this weekend. The next thing on the agenda there is, on my report, is we have entered into a contract with the Fair Board, Lenawee County Fair Board. So they would like us to perform security for them. Our staff has met with their staff and kind of hammered out some of the things. It just seems like a very good fit because we usually have quite a few staff members up there anyway. And this just kind of codifies what we've been doing, and it probably is a very good thing for the fair and for the fair goers and us as well. There is a action request form and a contract there that needs action on it.
To that effect, we have a request from the sheriff to approve a contract with the Lenawee County Fair to assign reserves, mounted unit members, dispatchers, deputies, and supervisors to the 2025 Lenawee County Fair for police services and crowd control. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Let me remind the other commissioners that as we are committee of the whole today,
Others can offer.
any commissioner can speak, make a motion, or support one thing. Mr. Ungst.
Just a question for you regarding the contract itself. I see there's no fixed actual numbers in the contract, but I assume what we're doing is covering the wages completely, and that's going to be a varying number based on who's actually filling the position.
Yes and no. We're going to have a fixed amount, but we're not going to look at every individual and calculate theirs. It'll be more of a negotiated fixed amount so that there is either a pass through, so there's nothing gained, or a number so that it makes it easier to do the contract. Sometimes it would be a nightmare, especially for our people doing the payroll, if we had to do every person and the hours they worked, et cetera. So with every other contract, it's the same thing. We look at the highest rate and go from there and make sure that we're covered.
Yeah, and I would assume this contract's going to look different because you don't really have a patrol car involved other than to get there and back, but you're not using it in the.
Yeah, there's usually patrol cars up there already. So, yeah, I don't believe there'll be a patrol car involved. No. Confirming it with the guy who actually does the work.
Okay, Sheriff, I'll have to apologize, the name escapes me, but much like the racetrack, are you able, as you'll have dispatcher there, create this circle around the fairgrounds, or all calls within the fairgrounds will go directly to that dispatcher? Is that?
Yeah, so geofence the fairgrounds, yes. Actually, we have talked about that, and we do have that ability. We'll be working with FirstNet to make sure that we can do that. So right now, it's on our plans unless there's something that kind of throws a monkey wrench into it.
Very good. For the question, I'm sorry.
To Commissioner Ung's question, there also, if you look further in your packet, there is an estimate from the Sheriff's Department that was thoroughly vetted through the Human Resources Department, considering essentially the officer, the employee of the Sheriff's Department, the hours worked, and the costs associated with that person.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ungst.
Okay, just another question for you. I referenced the security guards, so there won't be security guards there this year. We are the security guard.
We are the security guards. However, if the fair does have some contingency of security guards, because there are some things that we will not do. We're still sworn.
Collect tickets.
Yeah, searching people's bags, things like that, we will not do. And so unless there's probable cause, obviously. So parking, we're not the parking police either. And so there may be some security there or their own staff.
Further questions, comments? Commissioner Krasny?
Are there going to be any of our UTVs outfitted out there at the fairgrounds this year?
We're working on that, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, the motion carries. Sheriff?
Thank you.
Right.
And back to my agenda there, I didn't bring my report.
Go ahead.
I did want to give a shout out to Captain Casey. Captain Casey has been appointed to the MMRMA Corrections Risk Control Advisory Board. And he has already met with them. Matter of fact, he met with them a few days ago because we were at the Michigan Sheriff's Association Conference, and we expect very good things. It's always very advantageous on both parts to have someone from the county sitting on a board like that. So we want to recognize him. Lastly, so we presented on our request for flock during the last CJ meeting, and I understand there were some concerns and some more information that the commissioners may have had questions on, or their constituents. So we want to make sure that be as transparent as possible and make sure that we can answer any of those questions. I did run into the flock representative at the Michigan Sheriff's Association Conference and did speak with a lot of sheriffs there about flock. And so we kind of dragged them along, and we have another one who is on Zoom, I believe, to answer any questions at all. So with that being said, I would bring up my captain and the representative to answer any questions that anyone may have. I can have my captain go through the whole flock spiel again, because there's some that did not hear that. So, Captain?
Morning.
Morning.
We have Mike Lampum with Flock Safety, as well as Jonathan Paz on here, and looking forward to answering your questions.
Questions? Is there anyone to hear, Mr. Martis?
Yeah, one of the reasons I suggested that we bring it back here is because I did hear some questions and concerns from other commissioners, and I want to make sure we thoroughly vetted it. I've studied the issue at length, talked with my constituents in my district. In general, the constituents are not a big fan of this, which I know is not a surprise to anybody. I also spoke to Dave LaMontagne, who represents our sheriff's deputies, and logically enough, he's very much in favor of it. So I do understand all sides of those issues. I read widely some literature and so forth on this kind of discussion. ACLU, Institute for Justice. I reached out to some friends at the Mackinac Center. My inclination on the behalf of my constituents would be to vote no. However, ACLU has recommended a middle position, a compromise position, where the biggest concern is the length of time of the data retention. 30 days or 3, or apparently there's one state that has limited statewide to only 3 minutes. That seems to the point of being futile to me. But I could see a path forward for myself where I could support this if there's any way our contract here could limit the county's data retention to just 72 hours while still furnishing access to the data that we might get through other partners. So I'd just like to throw that out there and like to hear some feedback on that option.
Good afternoon. Could folks hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we at Flock, we completely honor your decision and whatever data retention preference you may have. There are two schools of thought here, and we do work hand in hand with the ACLU. One school of thought thinks that, the data retention period needs to be shorter. Another school of thought thinks that, it's not 30 days is not long enough. We have found 30 days to be a good middle ground between both schools of thought. We work with over 5,000 communities across the country. And 30 days seems to give enough time for law enforcement to be able to properly investigate a situation, because typically crime isn't reported immediately. Sometimes it takes days, weeks. So that's kind of why 30 days has become the standard. But we are happy to accommodate whatever you guys feel is best.
Mr. Van Dorn.
Yeah, I just have a little concern. Do we have commissioners here that have not seen the presentation? Did you see the presentation? I mean, I think, since it's a committee of the whole, maybe a high level synopsis here of what we're doing. I mean, for people, we brought everyone together as a committee of the whole so that we'd understand. Well, it's kind of hard if they haven't heard what what we're talking about here. So maybe, we're not looking for anything in depth, but a 50,000-foot view of what's going on.
So what this is, step up and correct me if I get off track here. It's specifically for reading license plates only. It doesn't take a picture of the person inside the car. Nothing is inside the car. Traveling on the roadway is taking pictures of that vehicle. This system has been used to reunite children with their families during abduction cases in a very quick manner. There's some parental kidnapping out there where the child is in danger. They have been solved by, this is dad or mom, this is the person's plate. You can put it into a hot list. You have to manually put it into the hot list, and you can get alerted as it comes through. There is a little bit of a delay. It's not in real time. This is not a surveillance system. There's no camera you can log into and see who's driving through here right now. This is data that's captured. We can go back and look at it later as part of our investigative process. When we went through this, originally Flock partnered with everybody and gave law enforcement access to it as long as you signed a memorandum of understanding, followed their procedures, that you had access to use this as an investigative tool. After an amount of time, it was, okay, now you've seen what the system is like. We now, I talk with my hands, I apologize. We now require you to purchase cameras to get into the system to have that ability for that investigative tool. Once you establish, I don't know how many they require, but we were advised that this is the amount that you need to maintain that investigative level of that level to keep the investigative tool. When we researched it, we looked at several areas throughout the county. We chose an area that we know has a large volume of traffic, that some of our people we found in the past that have committed break-ins of businesses and vehicles that get stolen and travel certain areas. These are the routes that we looked at that is the most common for them to go. We also avoided townships or areas that had their own police department right now, because we don't want to put our county money into somewhere that police agency can use. We want them to partner with us so we can work together on it. So we wanted to start in the areas we knew had the highest probability of solving those crimes. We've had success on our end with the lightning quick gas stations that everybody knew we had a rash of those. We were able to put that vehicle, once we identified the vehicle, put that in the system. We were alerted that they were on their way down here, and which is why they were caught in the act, and those have since stopped, and that is going through the legal process at this point. So there are lots of successes just from us having access to use that as an investigative tool. There is an audit trail with it that you can log into and see who has searched, who has, why. Every time you run a search for it, you have to put a complaint number and a reason. So there's no just randomly, I just want to search maroon Chevy Malibus. It's very specific. You have to have a reason. And when you go back and audit it, you can combine that complaint number with the search and see if that actually was accurate. Our plan, our procedure will be to have it audited twice a year at minimum, with a quarterly review just to make sure it's not getting overly abused and utilized in that manner. Twice a year audit would be on the law enforcement captain, obviously me right now, but it would fall on the law enforcement captain to create that audit and provide a report to the sheriff, so that if any commissioners wanted to know that as well, we could have that transparency with you. Right now, we're looking at 6 stationary cameras. We chose not only the routes where we thought they were going to go, we also chose county roads. If you put one of these on a state highway, you now have to go through a permitting process with MDOT. which actually increases the cost of each camera pretty significantly. So we wanted to do it at the most cost-effective way on county roads. And we have one camera that they call a flex camera that can be moved to areas where you have more things going on. It's something that could be utilized during the NASCAR weekend to use it up there in case we had any abductions, in case we had any crimes that we needed to work on swiftly. So we're starting with the 7. We've discussed with Flock that we would like that 30-day. We don't need anything longer than that, we don't believe. I know there's other places that have 6 months to a year that they want saved. We don't need that. We can figure it out pretty well in 30 days. And if we can't, then we've got to find other ways to do that.
Mr. Ungst.
Thank you, Captain. You actually answered a couple of my concerns already, but I just want to highlight some things. So the first thing you talked about, where you're putting them, and you were putting them in areas where you have primary responsibility, which I totally understand. That sounds like we could lead to some collaboration with some of the township as well. Is that something that has been talked about, or have you reached out to the other townships?
That's a long-term goal. We haven't reached out to them yet. We would like to start here, and as we show, or as we can prove that it is effective, that we want to have some data to go to them with, that this is how we've utilized it, this is how we've helped in this area. If we go and start talking now, then it's, well, there's no skin in the game. I don't see a need for it. But if we can show the success stories on our end from where they're at, now can we partner with this township or village or wherever to help offset that? Let's share in the cost of this rather than it
Right,
100% fall in the county.
That's kind of my point. I see an opportunity here.
Yes.
Maybe we could do that. What about the state police? Do they have any buy-in on it?
State police has a flock camera system. There are none in Lenawee County for the state police. They are primarily on expressways, but there's a lot. There's a lot of cameras in the state of Michigan already. There's a couple hundred police agencies that are that have cameras on the system.
Okay. So I got permission to lead into another question. So, so speaking of the state highways, in talking to some of my constituents, that was one of the concerns too. A lot of people feel that the state highways is a higher volume of traffic, and I explained to them about the process. But is there any way we could still consider doing it, even though it's like a 6-month process, I think I was told in the past?
Yes, sir. For the permitting process for like DOT roads and stuff, the process generally takes about 6 to 12 months to clear the permitting process to get permission to install.
Okay. And how much is the additional cost?
So our standard installation costs, we do have 3 different price points. If we're existing on existing infrastructure, it's a one-time installation fee of just $150. If we have to put in what we call a standard flock pole, it's a black decorative pole, shiny, and it also helps blend into your community without being like just looking terrible. Like a lot of devices out there, that pole costs $650. And then where required by MDOT, the pole costs $1,250, and it's a 14-foot shiny silver pole.
Okay. Yeah, I've just seen some in Jackson County where they're on the state highways.
And we would like to do that eventually.
Yeah.
We wanted to try and get the most.
Yeah, you got to start
cost-effective way to
somewhere,
get
right?
it.
Yeah.
And so eventually, if it's successful and we can do that, that would be in the future.
Okay.
Mr. Krasny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Sheriff, and your team for coming back in so we could thoroughly vet this process. I share some of the concerns of my esteemed colleague, Commissioner Martis, although he respects the ACLU more than I do, but I respect that.
Oh, boy.
Part of my issues with this, and I'm glad we're having this discussion, is one, like Commissioner Ung said, is the location of the devices. I think part of his question was how much more is the permitting for major either state or federal roads, i.e. US 12 and 52, US 223, et cetera.
Yes, so as far as your all's cost for that, Flock will actually handle all the permitting, so we will actually cover that. That's included in the installation cost for our technicians to come out. We do a site survey, work with 811 Miss Dig, make sure everything is up to par and being permitted appropriately. For you all, there's no additional cost for that. It would just be the installation cost would be the $1,250 price point versus $650, which is what we're looking at for this proposal.
So if we did go onto a state or federal highway, it would be the same cost for us as it would be any other county road,
Essentially, yes, sir.
essentially.
With
Just the
Yeah.
delay.
Increase the pole.
Yep, just the increase of the price for the pole. And that's again, because it's a DOT requirement. There's a nationwide provider that sources these for devices all across the country, and that's where we have to source those poles from.
But we're talking $1,000.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay. So that was part of my concern was because I thought those are some worthwhile roads on the eastern portion of our county, but I know that we have more roads that probably need more attention, major thoroughfares between our county and major urban areas. So that's still part of my concern. And then I'm always concerned about the budget, and the sheriff has some great projects that he needs funded. And so it all comes from one basket. So, thank you.
Mr. Van Dorn, do you have a question?
Right, I have some concerns and some positive feedback too, like my esteemed colleagues here, Commissioner Krasny and Commissioner Mortis. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time. But how many other agencies in Lenawee County have the system? Do they?
Only one in Lenawee County. City of Adrian has several. I don't know the exact number, but the city of Adrian does have several.
And so if we would change, we're talking about 7 cameras.
Currently, yes.
Okay, so if we would change those cameras to major thoroughfares, I know there's a delay in time. It's going to take time. You got to get approval, but would that process for, let's say you picked out 223, M50, M52, whatever they are, would those all be done at the same time? So the delay is just for all of the cameras? I mean, and you're talking about what, 6 months to a year, did you say?
So we would actually implement as we get the permits approved. So if like, let's say some of them remain county and some are going to be MDOT, usually the county ones are going to get processed first. Once we go ahead and get the go ahead to that the permit has been issued, we will move to installation, and we target getting the installs done within 2 to 3 weeks of the permit being issued.
The locations that we chose to, not only to save a little bit of money, but those are traditionally what we've identified as the main routes into and out of Lenawee County for the types of crimes we're investigating. So it's Ridge Highway is one of those main ones that is that nexus to southeast, the upper southeast Michigan area. So we predominantly see everything going that way or coming in that way.
Yeah. Would you be opposed to changing some of those cameras to a main highway? Say if we decided that we like this, but we'd like half of them to be on major thoroughfares?
Absolutely not. We would be in support of that.
And now that I've said that, tell me about the annual budget. I haven't studied your budget before I came here, but reoccurring cost. I mean, we're going to put these cameras in. First of all, we'd have the one charge this year, which would be a little larger because you're going to talk about all 7 cameras, and some of them may be on a major highway. And I take it the money in the budget is there for that installation this year, but what about the reoccurring budget? Like a lot of things that we do in Lenawee County and other organizations, you know, the initial part's the easy part to get the money for, but you got to keep the doors open, and we got to worry about what happens as these costs escalate in the future. So what about that?
So the initial purchase, we've determined the CJ allocation with that funding source as of right now. We wanted it to be part of the budgeting process moving into the future. So if approved, the one-time installation for this year would be out of CJ allocation, potentially next year's, but then we could also start that budgeting process for 2027 to include it in our yearly budget. So it's not coming out of a special project. We can also, we've discussed with Flock, if approved, we could lock in that pricing by doing a multi-year agreement. That would be something we would bring back once everything would be approved if everything is approved, we would bring back and say, here's an extended contract for 4 or 5 years, and it's this one price for all 5 years. Flock was very transparent with us when we looked at this, probably 2 years ago was the first time we looked into it. Their cameras were a certain, said in 6 months, it will be this. So if you sign up now, it's this, in 6 months, it's gonna be this. We couldn't do it at that time, but they were very upfront about that. Discussing with Mr. Lampum here, we also have been told that when they do have this price point come up, they will reach out to their customers and say, this is coming, we can lock you in on this for an extended period of time. And then you will get the increased price, but we can do an extended contract, so this is still locked in for you.
So continuing with my follow-up, if I may. So have you worked with the administrator on the budget and moving the budget forward? Right now, as everyone is aware, not only here in this building, but throughout the county and the nation, just about everything's being looked at by both the federal and state government, and budgets are being cut. And we have a lot of organizations that have already alerted the administrator's office that they're very concerned about whether they're going to have funds additionally. So, the general fund looks like it could take some huge hits here in the future, trying to keep the same services that we have. How much is this going to increase the budget of the sheriff's department over the period of the next 5 years? And have we worked that out with the administrator?
We've just started those discussions. We sat down a couple of days ago and talked about that. We don't know what the long-term forecast would look like on the budget. There's many projects that are coming that that our citizens in our community are starting to expect for you to have, and we're working on the budgeting process for those as well. I know our overall law enforcement budget, this is on a percentage scale, would be about 1% of the yearly budget. I think we're something like that. It would be 1% or less of the yearly budget, but any cost increase, any increase to the budget is a strain in other areas. So we're aware of that, and we want to continue to have those discussions. The CA allocation, we know that that is a fund that fluctuates, that can be replenished in certain ways. That's why we wanted to start there.
Good, because the last thing I'd want to do is in the future, like some of our other counties that had to do, is contract out all road patrol because we don't have enough money to keep our road patrol moving. But my final statement is, as much my colleagues here, I've researched this with our constituents out in our area, and it's a 50-50 draw. I could go either way, because some people think it's Big Brother watching us, and some people think it's absolutely what we need in order to keep our communities safe. So, I think the long term of it is that, what it's going to do to the overall cost of the sheriff's department and keeping our residents safe. So thank you very much for answers.
And as I mentioned during the last presentation, I was skeptical in the beginning. This is why we're here quite late down the road. I'm usually one of those IT people that's an early adopter, and in this one, I had some concerns as well. I'm concerned about data. I'm concerned about the Big Brother aspect of it. I waited for those stories to come out about all the bad things that are happening with Flock and their data, and they just didn't happen. I didn't see any stories of something bad happening with the data, and it's going to be managed, as the captain pointed out. And that's why we've had more success stories. We mentioned the B&Es. We had the gentleman who had the pipe bombs and shot a police officer. That person was located because of Flock. So there are those stories, and there's many that haven't been written yet that, again, this is a tool. This is a tool like any other tool that we have in our tool belt when it comes to investigations, when it comes to how do we solve this and how do we get closure for the family. This isn't because we want cameras out there. This is because we want to solve crimes. We want to reunite people. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can for citizens in Lenawee County. And that's why we're here, and that's why we are making this request.
Mr. Krasny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And one additional question that we didn't hit on yet is what about the security on the back end? We see so many bad actors, both in this region and worldwide, that try to hack in and utilize technology to their benefit and our detriment. Could you hit on that point a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jonathan, you can chime in here too if you'd like. But so our devices are encrypted end to end. Nothing is actually stored on the devices themselves. So even if, let's say, a device was stolen, they would not be able to get any data off it. From the time that the image is captured in a matter of a few seconds, that is fully encrypted, and then it is wirelessly transmitted via LTE, and it is backed up on a fully encrypted server that is comparable to anything like our government uses. So it's AWS, cloud, and security.
Yeah, just to expand on that, we've never been hacked. And yeah, we're SOC 2 certified. So we take security very seriously.
Commissioner Townsend, you have a question?
Yeah. You talked about 150 and a few other dollars and 1,200 and some. What does it cost for 7 cameras to get this running the way you want to do it? Approximately, ballpark, but.
Yeah, so the devices themselves, each device costs, for what we're proposing here, $3,000. The Flex device is $4,250. That is the mobile one that can be used by law enforcement for special events or if they have a special investigation going on somewhere. But the base device for the 6 that we're talking about, they're $3,000 per unit. And then there's that one-time installation cost that we charge for doing all of the permitting process and the installation of the devices. The annual recurring for this proposal that we have right here is going to be $25,250.
Okay.
That's everything.
That's everything. Flock also, we take care of all of the maintenance for the devices, hardware, software upgrades. So like anytime new vanity plates come out, for instance, like to be able to recognize those, we have to program our AI to be able to recognize that and interpret it for law enforcement's purposes. So we're constantly pushing out updates. And then also for the hardware itself, as we continue to develop and make better cameras, we will go ahead and replace those devices on a rotating basis as needed. So we take care of absolutely everything. If the lenses get dirty, we'll send a technician out here to clean them. Solar panels or batteries end up wearing low, we'll replace those. So this is your all-in cost.
Okay. So it's either side of $25,000 per year. Is there any limit? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? $25,000 is not much in a $34 million budget. But at the same time, as you started in, you had $1,800, and now it's 25,000. Now, either one of those figures of work can work well if the opportunity arises. And the best thing could ever happen, we never use it. It's true insurance. You buy insurance, and the best thing you can do is never have a claim in most anything. So I think you've answered what I need to know. And I think you need to look at it as an insurance type of situation, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Captain Piper is correct that the administrator's office and himself has had conversations regarding the budget. For clarification, it is actually 29,800 for year 1, and then it is the 25,250. And from what I understand it, for the first year following, it's not recurring 25,250 unless I'm incorrect in that. Based on the contract, it appeared to be just the following year was 25,250. And currently, yes, that's correct. The Criminal Justice Allocation Fund can sustain those 2 years. However, Captain Piper alluded to the fact that kind of looking at our successes, kind of like a pilot program. After that second year, we would come back and look at those successes from those audit reports. And we would look at obviously revenue to expenses that's happening within the county in that year and determine whether or not that would be something that we could sustain with the general fund. But at this point, it would be looking more of these next 2 years, if approved, under the 29,800 for year one and 25,250 for year two, as again, more of this kind of pilot program, if you will, to see again whether or not that return is there for the county.
Commissioner Van Dorn.
So, you know, as I'm hearing this, I'm, you know, I could possibly vote for this, knowing where we're going here, but I have a few concerns. So the pilot program, what happens if we go the pilot program? It's 2 years, the pilot program, and we don't want to do it anymore. What happens then? Do you come pick up your cameras and go home?
Essentially, yes, sir. So if at the end of 2 years, your county doesn't see the value in the program or law enforcement isn't having the success that you would like to see with it, at the end of the contract period, we'll come out, collect the devices, and that's the end.
And question two, if I may, Mr. Chairman, question two is okay, so we agree that it's a pilot program for 2 years, but we want to be on major highways and we want, you know, out of the 7 cameras, we want 4 of them to be on major thoroughfares in Lenawee County. Do you come out and move the ones we have? And we still have 7?
Yeah, if they are already installed, there is a relocation fee, usually because we have to put in another pole in the ground, and these do have to be sunk below like the frost level and everything. So pulling them out of the ground usually destroys the pole. So there would be a relocation fee if they were already installed, but up until like we're installed, we can change the locations all we want.
Some of the equipment would be salvageable. And then finally, you know, I would have to, this is not so much for you, but for our sheriff and his people, is that, you know, I would have to have some sort of review with the administrator to go over this, to take a look at the long term of what happens at the end of the pilot program if we want to continue this moving on for the years ahead, so that we're not going to have any budgeting problems here.
I can help add into that too. So like right now for our contracts that are coming up, like whenever we do renewals, we do have an over 99% retention rate across the country.
If I may, I'm sorry, you finished, Commissioner Van Dorn?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I may, Commissioner Nuns and I enjoy a little bit of a benefit here in that we have law enforcement backgrounds. And I want to address a couple of things. I understand the concern. Well, let me step back. I have had the opportunity to view Adrian's system, watch it operate, see how it's done, look at the maps showing the cameras virtually everywhere. And I was rather impressed. I voiced a concern to them about the Big Brother aspect. They said they've received virtually no complaints about a Big Brother situation. Having said that, from a law enforcement background, when we talk about a retention period, 30 days versus 3 days, it came to my mind immediately. I can picture several cases, but one in particular I know of. I worked years back. It was in a kidnapping of a young girl, and it took us quite some time to extract information from that girl. A gentleman kidnapped her, went to a certain location, dropped the girl off, heard they were coming after him, and left. And it was because of parent involvement and some others. Finally, we got a forensic individual come in, but it was 4 days before she told us this was a green car like Uncle Jim's. Well, Uncle Jim had a green Malibu. So if the retention is 3 days and you find out in 4 days, it's of no value. The data is already gone. So it's of no value. 30 days might be too long, but I don't think 3 days is anywhere near enough. I think the program is an excellent program that has, as I've found out with Adrian Pedia, a great program. Having said all of that, and I probably will support this, I just have to say this, and this comes from my background as an administrator in law enforcement. This should have come up during the capital budget period. It should have come up, not midway through the budget process. I can see changing someone from here to there or a smaller purchase, but this is a significant purchase. It should have been vetted and put in the current budget that you're operating under, or wait until the next budget. But that's just my opinion. Any other comments, questions? Mr. August?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of questions that I had have been answered, so good job on that. And I agree with what my colleagues have been saying. And I would say that probably my constituents would be 50-50 on it as well. However, as Chairman Collins has said, the retention period, and I can respect where you're coming from, Commissioner Martis, but I would have to say from my background in law enforcement, I agree with the 30 days. Just for the perspective of investigation. So, and I see that's what you guys are proposing. So I personally feel that's a reasonable amount of time. And then I just have one more question. We're talking about permits on the state highways. Does the county road commission require permits for being in the county?
No.
Okay. And, okay.
Any other comment, questions? Hearing none, the request is further discussion and consider the flock camera system hardware and software. That's the previous one, isn't it? One for me. Okay. The request is to approve implementation of the flock LPR for $29,800 from CG allocation for personnel, ways and means, and $25,250 per year after. Now, let me remind you, yes.
This would actually be a recommendation to Personnel Ways and Means Committee for approval.
Let me remind you, the request says per year after. So there's no definite number of years after that. It is the initial purchase and every year thereafter.
2 years, initial purchase in 1 year.
I'm just stating that the request states $29,800 for year one and $25,250 per year after that.
It doesn't say it.
$55,000 minimum.
My point is,
Not.
we're saying we could go 10 years, 15 years, whatever. We're not being definite. This is a request to forward this to Ways and Means.
So just a clarification, so it's 25,000 per year after, but we really don't know if it's going to stay at that amount, right?
Don't know if it's going to be, well, we
Because I thought I heard.
have no
him say-
guarantee per year after
I
that.
thought I heard him say there could be a package, right?
Correct. So if approved, this would just be the first 2 years. What our intentions would be to lock in that amount would to come back with a contract that says this is the number of years that it would be locked in for this. If approved, if we show that first year, we can, yes, this is something we want to stay with. We will come back with a.
I believe part of his question is it 25,250 for every year? 5 years from now, is it still 25,250?
As prices have continued to go up, I can't say that our price is going to stay the same forever. We've only had one price increase in the history of our company. That was back in 2023. And so as of right now, I'm not aware of any plans to increase our rates, but it could happen in the future.
But the guarantee is for 1 year.
Correct. And we could extend this agreement for up to 5 years to help lock in the pricing for your budget.
Could it go down?
Also, you can lock it in for 5 year. So could you but you can't lock it in for less than 5 years?
Well, again, we would just lock in for whatever the agreement is that you all would approve. So our standard agreement is for 2 years, and then we could extend that agreement up to 5 years to guarantee the pricing.
Up to, okay.
Commissioner Martis.
Could we not simply amend our request to reflect just the 2 years because that's all the contract's offering? I mean, I don't know if you need a motion to that effect, but.
You did motion?
No. Asking if we need one or what the chair desires.
Do you understand what he's saying? We want to make the recommendation to Ways and Means for the initial purpose of 29.8 and one subsequent year for 25,250. Am I correct?
Think so, yeah.
Is that? Do I have a motion to that effect?
I will make a motion that we move it forward to the Ways and Means for the 2-year contract as stated.
Okay. Or second,
Support.
it's moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Mr. Van Dorn.
Yes, I can vote for this, but I just want everyone to be very clear on this, is that, you know, this is the pilot program. And for me to go any further, it's going to be, let's look at the numbers to get it out on the main highway and move it around. And let's get with the numbers with the administrator to see, you know, we don't work on a 1-year basis here. We're looking, the administration office is looking all the way ahead 5 years and maybe even further. So, you know, in order to continue, if this should pass, the only way I could support it is to get those things on paper so that we can look at them.
Commissioner Martis.
Just one comment. My intention will be to vote no, but I want people to know that it's simply the data retention. I respect what our officers are trying to accomplish and the role this will play with respect to public safety. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Van Dorn.
And Mr. Chairman, who's voting today?
The Criminal Justice Committee is voting to forward this to the.
Just the criminal justice, not the committee of the whole.
Well, Committee of the Whole is now the Criminal Justice Committee for this particular
So
meeting.
we're all voting.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Krasny.
And with this motion, are we able to have further internal discussions on the placement of the cameras? Or with this motion, are these the road and avenues chosen?
Well, I don't, we can have discussion, excuse me. We can have discussion, and I'm speaking personally, again, as a previous administrator. I'm loath to start telling the sheriff where he has to put these cameras. That's micromanaging, I think. If the sheriff believes in his professional opinion and that his research tells him that there should be A, B, and C, and D, then I would have to support that. I personally feel, and as I hear the tenure here, everyone else feels that they should, a camera or some cameras should be at some point in time on a major highway. But I'm loath to tell the sheriff, yeah, we'll buy your cameras, but we're going to tell you where to put them too. Commissioner Van Dorn.
So it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this motion would put them where they're saying right now, and any change to that, it could possibly change the price, and it would have to come back to the commission and be changed at that time. So this does put them where they're asking for them to be put.
Correct.
May I speak on it real quick? So I also want to reiterate that these cameras are for high crime cases. We're not, you can't use them for surveillance to catch speeders. You can't use them to, you know, witness a crash. It's not going to take pictures of a crash that happened in that area. This is throughout my career, criminals tend to stay off the main highways. There is a notion that police officers are on the main highway. If they commit a higher level crime, they're going to drive on the back roads. So these are those identified places where it's the primary back road that we have witnessed them take, that we have researched and throughout our career seen that that's the way they go. I want them, we would like them in a lot of places throughout the county because it does help. This is our starting point, and I want to make sure that everybody's clear. This is not tied to any databases other than one we create. It doesn't run plates as they run by there. It just notifies, here's this plate that you were looking for if you create that hot list. So myself or another command level person has to actually put that data into the system for it to even give us an alert. So it does side to that.
And if I can expound, we are also expecting that other entities are going to put cameras on those main thoroughfares. state police and others, and we'll have access to that information, just like they'll have access to our information. So again, when we talk about an insurance policy, this is an insurance policy for the entire nation, because many times we get, be on the lookouts for vehicles that are coming into Michigan, and they're trying to make it, and they're not coming up the main thoroughfares. They're trying to make it to a location to be not discovered. And that's why we're looking at these specific locations. So.
Mr. Van Dorn.
So would you be aware, do the state police communicate that to you, that in the future, this is where they're planning on putting cameras?
They don't ask me for my input. However, it would just make sense that they would be putting them on those major roadways as opposed to the others. And if we have them on areas, they're not going to put one next to ours. So they would look at the same thing. They would look at what's the best bang for the buck in these situations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let me reiterate, 29,800 for year one. And as we have agreed here, 25,250 for the next year. Am I correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Dorn?
You're correct. And Mr. Chairman, I'd request a roll call vote.
Very good. Roll call vote?
Commissioner Ungst,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco absent, Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Daly absent, Commissioner Krasny,
Yes, for the purpose of advancement.
Commissioner Martis,
No.
Commissioner Stimson absent, Commissioner Tillotson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Doren.
Yes, without qualification.
Motion passes. We have no further business to be brought to this committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the Flock people for coming.
Thank
Any
you.
further business to be
Thank
brought?
you all
to
for
this
having me.
committee? My apologies to those waiting for the next meeting, but this is of a serious nature and need to be discussed. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Public comment?
I'm sorry, is there any public comment? Any public comment?
Isn't there some sort of fine for you, for the chairman running the meeting over?
$5 to the flower.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Support.
Moving support, is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, same sign, motion